So on behalf of CI Compass, I'm Anirban Mandal. I'm one of the co-PIs for CI Compass, and I wanted to welcome everyone to day 2 of the 2025 NSF CI Compass virtual workshop on the topic of data management from instrument to first storage. So the aim of this virtual workshop is to bring the community of research infrastructures, both mid-scale facilities and major facilities, to discuss and present challenges, best practices, potential solutions, and open issues for handling the first stage of the data life cycle for a facility, handling the data flow from different kinds of facility instruments to the first storage of the data. So we'll have different talks that will cover topics like issues of tagging the data with the metadata, enabling fair attributes right at the source of the data collection, managing streaming data. How do you choose technologies for storing that data that's coming out at maybe at very high frequency? Choice of database technologies. How do you do experiment steering and on-the-fly control? How do you support user-specific instruments? These are some of the sample kind of topics that will be covered by the talks. So to recap, we had an exciting session yesterday. The workshop was kicked off by Eva Dietman, the PI for CI Compass. And then we had a series of 4 talks from Ted Haberman from Metadata Game Changers, Franco Bayer and Qing Zhang from the Zeus mid-scale facility, Chris Bontempi from the NAN mid-scale facility, and David Butcher from MagLab. So just to recap on the contents of some of the contents of those talks, Ted gave a nice presentation on DataCite and how DataCite enables DOIs and metadata for instruments. Until now, about 200 instruments are supported by DataCite, and the metadata includes basic identifiers, descriptions, and links to related resources. He also discussed about potential opportunities to enhance the existing metadata for instruments on DataCite. He also talked about a tool called the DataCite Commons that connects these instruments to publications, data sets, organizations, funders, and more. Some of the discussions touched on assigning DOIs early to track instrument usage and their impacts. And we need to focus on connections over strict definitions of what exactly an instrument is. The next talk was by Franco Bayer and Qing Zhang from the Zeus. The talk started with an overview of the Zeus laser facility. So Zeus is a user facility that supports experimental research, and users visit the facility with different kinds of samples. And when data is collected, not only the experimental measurements are collected, the different parameters of the laser are also collected. So the facility gives the users tools to acquire these very sophisticated data sets. Some of the data management topics that were covered were how Zeus utilizes the Tango control system for acquiring the data from the different instruments and the cameras and the associated GUI. How the data is transferred from the Zeus lab to the Data Den, Turbo, and other University of Michigan resources, and how the data can be securely transferred via Globus. And Qing also talked about the Zeus portal and how that's used to not only manage the proposals, but also for the PIs to access the data and share the data. Some of the challenges that Franco and Cheng brought up were about addressing the camera bandwidth constraints, how to incorporate automation in some of the functions within the facility, how to incorporate metadata and formats. They talked about adopting some domain-specific formats like Nexus, and some of the issues about integrating machine learning solutions. The third talk was by Chris Bontempi from NAN, which is the Network for Advanced NMR. That's a mid-scale facility with the goal of democratizing NMR use by the user community. And he talked about how NAN enables user experimentation, supporting remote experimentation from the users, how it provides a knowledge base to the users, and how it archives the data. Some of the data management challenges that Chris touched on were about identifying discrete units of data across different experiment types, addressing workflow considerations like user opt-out and how the users can input the different kinds of metadata, how to ensure a reliable data transmission and parsing across the different NAN sites, and handling various points of failures in the system. Some of the current efforts within NAN were about addressing unexpected experimental volumes, handling complex kind of data groupings, scaling to more facilities, and managing discipline-specific metadata. The fourth talk was by David Butcher from the MagLab major facility. David presented the unique data life cycle at MagLab, starting with the proposal development process and a detail both the physical architecture of the magnets and how the CI around it is structured for one of the sub-facilities of MagLab called the ICR facility. Some of the challenges David mentioned were about how to manage these data streams with custom vendor-provided and hybrid instruments, and sometimes users bringing in their own instruments in addition to using the facility instruments. There are challenges in acquiring the data, challenges in processing the data, and how to store the data. And MagLab is moving toward improving the data management practices, and which highlight the need for advanced systems to transfer the data directly to databases or data stores, incorporating metadata and enabling high-speed access to both HPC and machine learning, and how they can scale across multiple MagLab facilities. So that kind of gives an overview of the four talks yesterday. So today we're looking forward to 5 different talks. All from the title, they look very, very interesting to me. We'll have a talk from Dan Cox, representing NERI, then followed by Benedict Rydell from IceCube, then Jenison Rollins from LIGO, William O'Mullen from LSST, and Jeffrey Gladstein from OI. To set the ground rules, so each talk is slated for 30 minutes, having the talk for 20 to 25 minutes, reserving the rest of the time for questions. We will start the talks at the designated times. They will all be recorded and shared with the community. And so that we're on schedule, we'll interrupt by voice after about 18 to 20 minutes. To ask questions, either raise your hand in Zoom, type on the Zoom chat, and we'll monitor it and make sure that your question is addressed. And for continued conversations, please use our Slack channel. And of course, we'll have a post-workshop survey and a workshop report summarizing everything.